No 10-page resumes. No 6-page resumes. I think we can showcase our experience even if you have a 25-year career in 3 pages. Even if you have a lot of successes that you want to list on your resume, what are your passions? What are you passionate about? Because that's what's going to attract you to your next role.
Welcome to Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How, the podcast for cleared professionals looking for new opportunities and career advice. We go behind the scenes with recruiters and hiring managers from leading cleared employers to uncover the information you need to make a smart career move. Get ready for insights from this week's guest and your hosts, Kathleen Smith and Rachel Bozeman.
Welcome back to the podcast studio. I am Kathleen with ClearedJobs.Net, and I'm joined by my Swiftie pal, my friend, my recruiter in arms, Rachel Bozeman. Rachel, how you doing today?
So good, but you forgot amazing dancer in that list of descriptors there, so we'll include that one. But when I'm not dancing, I love doing this podcast with you, Kathleen, and meeting all sorts of new friends through this journey. So who in the heck is our new friend today?
Today, we have Heather Morris, Director of Talent Acquisition at Redhorse. Heather, so happy to have you join us in the studio today. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here. I love the energy.
So good, right? So much fun. We love talking about recruiting and great careers. And I think something that is fun about recruiting is nobody ever started their career or was a child and dressed up for Halloween as a recruiter. It's something we kind of fall into, right?
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey, how you started and how you ended up as the director of TA at Redhorse.
I went to school for business, but when I got out, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had worked in the restaurant industry. I was a bartender for a while, and I picked up a job. I was working as a dental assistant and quickly found myself migrating to the front of the office, dealing with people. I talk a lot. I have a big personality. So I knew I'd be good at sales. One of my best friends was actually in recruiting, and she was like, Heather, I think you'd hit it out of the park. So I ended up starting to apply for recruiting jobs. And my first recruiting job was a staffing agency. And I did that for a little bit, but somebody throughout my network said, hey, Heather, you should take this interview. I think you'd be a great fit for it. And it was my first cleared corporate role. It was a small business. When I started, we were about 60 people. I was one of the first recruiters that they hired into there. So I built a team under me. A little over a year or so after that role, we got acquired by a company called Novetta. Love Novetta. I ended up falling under Kirsten Renner, which, Kathleen, I know you know Kirsten.
I was going like, wait a minute, that's my pal.
Yeah.
That's Kirsten.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I worked underneath her as her recruiting manager, as she was the director, and helped her lead the team. And, once we got our flow going, of course, we got acquired by Accenture Federal Services. So went into Accenture and I stayed a recruiting manager there. And it was an awesome experience. It was my first time ever working large. So, I definitely got to see that side of the house. Very different beast. And actually, some of our leaders went to Redhorse, and I saw the opportunity, and it ended up being a fit. So I'm super happy to be here at Redhorse now. I have 3 wonderful recruiters underneath me, and we're making an impact every day. But yeah, that's kind of my story and my path. Just lots of acquisitions. I've worked staffing, small, medium, large. It's great.
It sounds like you've had a really great career, worked with some really great companies and great people along the way. So let's delve in a little bit more on what type of work does Redhorse do in the cleared community?
Yeah. So we really specialize supporting federal agencies and clients, in areas like cybersecurity, data analytics, a lot of mission critical systems overall. A lot of our contracts require high level security clearance just within national security, defense, intel, and government services.
Awesome. And why Redhorse? Where'd that name come from?
Our founder, his name is David Inman, chose the company name Redhorse because he wanted it to be something simple, memorable, and unique. It also tied to his experience while he was serving in Iraq. While in Iraq, he worked with an Air Force engineering unit known as the Redhorse Squadron. They were really the Air Force version of the Navy Seabees. The acronym for Redhorse is actually Rapid Engineer Deployable Heavy Operations Repair Squadron Engineer. So very tech
Okay.
related, but that is a mouthful, I know.
That is a mouthful, but and a really great way to honor people who were serving in the field.
Yeah, that would look a lot better. Red Horse looks a lot better monogrammed on your shirt than all of that other one.
Yeah.
Love it. So let me ask you what all the listeners are dying to know, and that is, what skill set or type of positions are you usually hiring for at Red Horse?
Typically, our positions are centered around cybersecurity, data analytics. We have program management roles, software engineering, and intel analysis. But there's 3 different practice areas within Redhorse. So that there's the cyber analytics, which we cover that within the tech. National security is heavy tech. But we also have our federal enterprise services practice area, which is more on the energy and federal civilian side. So within that, it's very different from our normal tech space. For instance, we're always looking for resource efficiency managers. Those roles open up occasionally, and they're kind of all over the country, all over the world, really. Like we have a position open in Guam right now. But really, what a resource efficiency manager focus on is identifying and implementing strategies to optimize organizations' energy practices to reduce operational and environmental costs. So it's still really closely tied to our supporting the government roots.
Love it. Well, I know you mentioned that some of those positions may be located in the lovely Guam, but where are some of the other positions located?
So, majority of our positions really are here in the DC metro area, including Northern Virginia. So, we're talking McLean, Arlington, DC. We have a lot of work on site at the Pentagon. We also have work in other hubs as well as California. We just won a brand new 5-year contract in sunny San Diego, sitting on site in Coronado. So, we are looking for senior software architects. So, if anyone's interested, love to talk to you.
Yeah, you could probably get some people in the dead of winter very interested in commuting out there to San Diego. So one topic that we talk about a lot here on the podcast is something that we see as sort of a fallout from the pandemic, which is a lot of remote and hybrid work.
Yeah.
And so you said a lot of your roles are on site, Pentagon and a variety of others. But, talk a little bit about hybrid and remote positions, but also, one topic that we sort of talk about in conjunction with that is, how do you deal with skiff stress? How do you deal with the people that have to work on site all the time, and so that they still feel engaged with the company, that they have ways of being flexible to take care of the family needs? So how does Red Horse and your team address all of this?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. Obviously, it's about balance, but I think that a lot of our corporate values are centered around our employees and making sure that they're supported, no matter what. Family comes first, work is work. But something that I think is nice that Red Horse does is they separate our leave balances. So you got your traditional PTO, and then you also have sick leave. On top of that, you also have your vacation time. So you're able to utilize that time as you want, and it is flexible to, I think I flexed Indigenous People Day, right? Just being able to have that flexibility, I think really helps offset some of that. And our core hours are also flexible as well. So if it's easier for you to come in a little bit later after traffic dies down, or you need to leave a little bit earlier and you come in a little bit earlier, just as long as you're there and you're able to do your work and to get to your meetings. That's really what the company focuses on. We're a mid-sized company, we're flexible, and everyone understands family obligations and things happen. So I respect the company for offering that flexibility to our skiff folks and employees overall.
It's awesome. Well, this kind of dovetails perfectly into that, but it's taking us back to the beginning of the conversation where you told us a little bit about your journey and shared that you had worked for smaller organizations and then kind of were thrown into the frying pan with a large organization.
Yeah.
And now we're back to the mid-size type of organization. So having that journey, are there differences that you've noticed now at Red Horse about the work environment and culture that you think candidates should know about coming to your organization makes them want to be there, my friend?
Yeah, honestly, I think that is our biggest sell, the culture that we can offer. you don't feel like you're just another cog in the wheel. You're actually going to come in, you're going to see the impact that you make. If you come into the office, the CEO's there, you get to go shake his hand, you get to know where the company's direction is going, and just like that transparency. And we still have a company call where we go through people's anniversaries, and managers get to do shout outs of accomplishments that we've had, and that just makes us feel like a unit. And I think that transparency is just huge.
We were talking about different size organizations, and it's interesting. Our audience doesn't sort of understand that everyone has a very different hiring process. Some
Yeah.
people have enormous processes, other people have it very streamlined. What is it like at Redhorse?
I'm a process girly. I'm over here trying to make things as streamlined and efficient as I possibly can. Typically, what happens is we'll do a recruiter screen, just a traditional screen, make sure that you're a fit, the role's a fit, you're interested in us, we're interested in you. And then the recruiter will go ahead and send your resume over to the hiring manager. If the hiring manager agrees, we'll go ahead and set up an interview. And if that interview goes well, then we'd like to go to an offer. Every now and then, we do have roles where you might need to have a client interview or a second interview, but we try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. But I have worked at organizations where the interview process is 2 weeks to a month, and it takes a while to get somebody in the door. So
Yeah.
I totally get that.
And I just sort of put out this little tip for our listeners that I think it's a really important question to ask at the beginning of an interview.
Yeah, what to expect.
You don't know what you don't know unless you ask the question. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
be sure you ask the question at the beginning of the interview. Hey, before we get into the nitty gritty, before we get down to it, can you just sort of map out what this process is going to be? What are my responsibilities? How many people am I going to interview with?
yeah.
As a recruiter, I would definitely recommend for recruiters to have that level of transparency. Start the
Yeah.
conversation with, this is the first step. Here's the steps that are coming behind it. Here's what we anticipate. I think that's something that sets organizations apart when you start with the end in mind.
Yeah, making a move to a new role is not something that they're taking lightly. That person's a person, so taking the time to explain it to them. This could be the first time they've interviewed in years. This could be their 100th interview this week. Who knows?
Absolutely. But I could go on all day, Heather, and I won't, but because I got an important question I want to ask you about SkillBridge. I know that y'all are involved in the SkillBridge program, so we'd just love to hear a little bit more about your involvement in the program.
We are really excited about it. So Redhorse has been a SkillBridge partner for a while. Around 2018, we were hot and heavy with it. We transitioned, I think, 3 or 4 people, and it was a great experience for the organization. But we had a little bit of a lull with it, and we have just recently revamped our partnership with them. And looking into 2025, we were planning on posting a couple roles for SkillBridge on our website, and we also have partnered with Hiring Our Heroes as well to make that partnership even stronger on both the military spouse side and also transitioning and veterans. So we're really passionate about it here at Redhorse, and I hope to only expand on that. So keep an eye out for our SkillBridge roles, and if you're interested in SkillBridge, feel free to send me a message.
Speaking of hiring, do you have any interesting or cool hiring success stories to just sort of explain for our audience that there are success stories out there?
Yeah, I mean, recruiting can feel tedious, right? It's just the same thing. You're on the job boards every day, and sometimes you just need a win. And I remember I was feeling this way. I was like, man, I just need a win. I was looking for a senior software architect for one of our prime contracts, and I was also working on a Scrum Master role. I called a Scrum Master, I talked to her, and she was like, hands down, you're the best recruiter I've talked to ever. And she was like, I have a lot of respect for you. She's like, I'm going to tell you, my whole team is losing coverage. We're really close. We've worked together for years. I ended up hiring her, a program manager, and 4 software architects and a QA developer. So I was able to pull her whole team with her and put them on a brand new prime contract. And it was the biggest win I think I've ever had as a recruiter. And that is just a huge success story that just sticks with me. And, I love to tell that story because it happens. Just be yourself and make those connections. It's all about networking in the cleared space.
I truly think that that's probably the biggest success story I have ever heard. So yes, it is about the job seekers networking. You really have to maintain those relationships, and if you do find a really great recruiter like Heather, who does believe in the candidate experience, you really need to make sure that you maintain that relationship with them.
Yeah.
Rachel, any other questions you want to ask our wonderful recruiter?
Oh, well, of course, Heather, I could geek out all day long talking about candidates, the candidate experience, but because we have so many candidates listening and they're always looking for greatness so they can be amazing candidates in the interview process, yes, I'm going to ask about resumes, particularly around our security cleared resumes. There's many opinions, many thoughts, but I would love to ask your expert opinion if there's any tips or tricks that you can recommend for our cleared professionals on making their resume even better than what they might have current state.
No 10-page resumes. No 6-page resumes. I think we can showcase our experience, even if you have a 25-year career, in 3 pages. It's really important to highlight your successes. Make sure that your resume is easy to read. We don't want a lot of words. Let's be real. A recruiter or a hiring manager probably spends about 15 to 30 seconds looking at a resume before they're on to the next one. Even if you have a lot of successes that you want to list on your resume, what are your passions? What are you passionate about? Because that's what's going to attract you to your next role. So definitely keep it clear, concise, have a skill section. Please have a skill section. Recruiters keyword search. So it's important for us to know that. And, maybe you put Python in your skills and you have experience with Python, but it might not be in one of your bullets, but it's a great opportunity for the recruiter to be like, hey, this role that I'm recruiting for requires Python. Tell me a little bit more about it. And just as much as a recruiter is helping to sell you a role, and they are also selling you to the hiring manager. So even if it's not on your resume, leave it to your recruiter to help back you up with your skills. So you don't need to put every single thing on your resume, and put your clearance on your resume, please.
When you're sending it into a cleared facilities employer.
Yes, that's fair.
So how can our listeners get in touch with you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn, so definitely feel free.
I know that. I've seen a lot on there.
Yeah, I'm constantly checking LinkedIn, so you're more than welcome to reach me there. But also feel free to send an email to talent-acquisition@redhorsecorp.com. That is our distro, and we are monitoring that all the time.
Awesome. Well, Heather, it has been absolutely fabulous chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Heather.
We had another really great interview. Heather did a great contrast between large and small companies. And, with a smaller company, medium-sized company, you really get to meet the management and talk with them. And as she said, the CEO of Redhorse comes and shakes your hand. Rachel, what did you sort of hear from Heather that piqued your interest?
Well, there was a lot. I love I think I'm going to steal your line, a good recruiter in arms to understand the folks. But I really appreciated her sharing the journey and the transparency that is recruiting. And so it's kind of starting out going, I don't really know what I want to do, but I think I'm really good at this. So hopefully it inspired some folks that may go kind of in that same boat of, I've tried a lot of different things and I don't know which flavor I like, to say, maybe recruiting could be my jam. So hopefully some of y'all were inspired. So speaking of inspiration, hopefully you are all out of your turkey comas at this point. We are thankful that you listened to the show. What would make us even more thankful is if you're here next time. So make sure that you go out there, you hit the follow button, and we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all. Bye-bye.
So did you guys have a good Thanksgiving?
Oh my gosh, I probably should get some bigger, stretchier pants because, good Lord, they know how to do Thanksgiving in LA. So here we is.
Yeah, well, I did Chinese food, so.
That feels very apropos.